Hey everybody. In Parshat Behar, the Torah states Ki amucha achicha u'machar me'achuzato, that if your brother is in a difficult situation financially, and now they're in dire straits, u'machar me'achuzato, and they have to sell their property. They have to sell the place that was given to them as their inheritance in Israel, that was given to their family. Uva goalo hakarov elav. So the Redeemer, who is closest to this person, I guess you could say the next of kin, should come v'ga'alet mimkar achiv, and should redeem what his brother has sold. This is the idea of buying back the land in Israel that rightfully belongs to that family, to that tribe, etc., etc. And that's the idea here, that there was supposed to be a chelek, a certain portion of land goes to a particular family, and it's supposed to stay that way. And when something happens and it's not able to be that way, we have to try to rectify the situation and to fix it. So on a simple level, this is a halacha that is one that we're not familiar with sort of practicing in our day and age, but is certainly clearly on the books. The Midrash here really takes the mitzvah and broadens the message. So let's read this together and see how our sages, our rabbis, took a pasuk that is, again, a cut and dry halacha and really expanded it to be a much greater life lesson, particularly as it relates to our fellow Jewish brethren. So, V'chi amucha achicha, the Midrash Tanchuma says, Elu Yisrael, who is the brother who's become very poor, become destitute? It's the Jewish people. Shenemar, it says, here's a play on words, from the word yamuch achicha, here's vayamoku ba'avonam, that they became poor through their iniquity. There's the connection there linguistically. That's from Tehillim. They became poor because or through their sins. Umachar me'achuzato, and therefore they had to sell their property. When did this happen historically? When did the Jewish people sin and this led to the sale of property? Shenimkeru b'madai b'mei Haman. They had to sell some of the property to their property was sold to Madai, media, in the days of Haman. The Jewish people were not in the best of situations when Haman came along. Shalach chanoto rasha me'achashverosh. As this particular wicked person, Haman, took it from Achashverosh, and he was the terror of the Jewish people, Haman. So, how do we continue darshaning the pasuk, explaining the verse? Uba go alo, pasuk in Vayikra says, and in Behar says, and then the Redeemer is supposed to come along. Who was the Redeemer in our story? Is that Mordechai? This is Mordechai. V'ga'al et mimkar achiv, and he's supposed to redeem that which his brother has sold. Shekisat avonotehem. How did he buy back that which his brother had sold, the Jewish people had sold? He was able to cover up their sins. Not to say that God didn't know what happened, but he was able to shekisat avonotem. He was able to cover up their sins. Shekulam hayu re'uyim lahariga. The Jewish people at that time deserved death by the letter of the law. They were not following in God's ways, clearly. Lama, what did they do that they deserved such a punishment? And this you may have heard in other contexts, this idea coming up in the Midrash. She'achlu mitavshile hamelach. They ate from some of the cooked food of the king. It doesn't say, by the way, it's very interesting. Sidebar. I don't know what to do with this. Maybe you'll tell me. It doesn't say here that they ate glat treif. they ate tavshile hamelech, the food that was cooked by the king, or probably those who worked for the king, which we would call is more we would term as ma'achale akum, as eating foods prepared by those that are idol worshippers, that are not Jewish. And this is something that is prohibited midrabanan later on in Jewish history, not at the time of the Torah. So it doesn't say here they ate treif, they ate bisholakum. So minayin, how do we know that this was the case, that they ate food that they were not supposed to eat, and they were clearly mixing and eating not perfectly 100% under hashgacha food? Shekach ksiv, as it says, shekach ktiv, it says in the pasuk in Esther, uvemelot hayamim ha'ele v'chule v'chule, and when these days were fulfilled, right, what happened? The king made a 7-day banquet for the people that were found in Shushan, the capital, both great and small, etc., etc. No distinguishing that the Jews didn't partake in this. The Jews clearly participated and saw themselves fully in these parties. V'nitgarabahen Haman. And Haman really, he was just torturing the Jewish people in this story. We know that. Shenemar, he pil pur hu hagoral. He drew a lot, basically to wipe out the Jewish people, to take all of their possessions. And only because of Zechut Mordechai nitzolu, and only because of the merit of Mordechai were they saved. V'nahafochu asher yishlutu haYehudim heima v'sonehem, the pasuk that we love to sing, that everything kind of was flipped on his head, and the Jewish people were the ones, the Yehudim were the ones who gained control over their enemies. And that is what we learn from Heve v'ga'alet mim karachi echav. That's how you redeem your brothers that have sold, they have made a sale on their inheritance. We learn from this that the message that emerges from the mitzvah, the cut and dry mitzvah that you read in Parshat Behar, is that when we see, even on a spiritual level, our brethren have sold their inheritance, their traditions, we do not turn our back on those brothers and sisters. If they worship differently, they do things differently, but they're Jewish, the Midrash is saying it's our job to be there for them in whatever way that we can be. To try to hopefully not just have a positive relationship, but hopefully, we're able to have them be proud to be Jewish, to be proud to be part of their traditions and their heritage. And even if that still means, by the way, that they're worshiping differently than us, right? They're not exactly observing halacha the way that an Orthodox Jew observes halacha. The fact that a Jew feels much more connected to tradition and to their heritage is of vital importance. It is something that is, I don't need to tell anyone listening out there, it is something that is a huge struggle today of Jews who are just completely not affiliating at all with Judaism. And it is our responsibility. It is our responsibility to care for them, to reach out to them, to be to be a person that is representing to them the bests and the ideals of Judaism and of our tradition. And Mordechai could have easily looked around at the Jewish people and said, look at them, they've basically integrated into Persian society. Maybe that's not me, and maybe I should move somewhere else, maybe I should just stick to myself. But no, he stood up for the Jewish people. He stood up against Haman. Because also he understood that Haman wasn't differentiating between Jews that were keeping halacha and Jews that were eating at these parties where there probably was food that was not under VAD certification. And that is also important to understand. That anti-Semitism isn't always aimed just simply at those who are who wear a kippah, who wear a Magen David, whatever it is, but it's aimed at Jews. I mean, you look at today in Israel, the law of return is defined essentially the way that Hitler, Yamach Shemo, defined what it was to be a Jew. Anyway, you're a Jew, so you're welcome back to the land of Israel, to the state of Israel. And we need to have that kind of attitude of being the Redeemer, of being the one who cares for all of our fellow Jews, no matter how they worship, no matter where they are in their spiritual journey. And if we do that, Bezrat Hashem, we will be able to see a redemption and a flowering of the Jewish people if we just continue every single day to have that sort of attitude. Have a great week, everybody.